This first problem here, we're going to simply add or subtract the following square roots. Now, before I can add or subtract the following, what do I have to do to each of these square roots? Simplify them. So I start simplifying by doing what? 27. So I start by factoring it, right? So what two numbers can I multiply together to get 27? So 3 and 9. Okay, I'm going to circle my prime. Then, okay. And then I go and factor my 24. So what two numbers can I multiply together for 24? 4 and 6, or 2 and 12, or 3 and 8. Any of those will work. For 4, we do 2 and 2. And then what do I have for 6? 2 and 3. And then I go factor my next radicand of 12. What two numbers can I multiply together to get 12? 2 and 6. And then for 6, 2 and 3. Now, this is the main thing you have to remember. When you add or subtract square roots, each square root gets its own square root sign. So each square root, its own factors go under its own square root sign. So for the square root of 27, we put the square root sign. And what are the factors for 27? Okay. Then I bring down my operation sign, which is addition. What's the next thing I need to bring down right after the addition sign? Good. Way to remember that coefficient. Yeah, the coefficient 2. And then what are the factors for 24? Make my square root sign a little bit longer here. Then the operation sign I bring down is minus, subtraction. Square root, and what are my factors for 12? Okay. Now, anytime we're dealing with square roots, after I factor them, I go through and I circle my factor pairs. So I know that these factor pairs cancel with the square root sign and they become a single number in the coefficient. When I go to rewrite the square root of 27 in simplest form, so when I go to rewrite the square root of 27 in simplest form, I'm going to rewrite it as what? What's going to be my coefficient? What's going to be my radicand? So 3 square root what? Yeah, it would be 3. Is that 3 here? Didn't cancel with anything. Then I bring down my plus sign. So I already have a coefficient of 2. What's going to be joining that 2 on the outside? Another 2, because that's canceling and getting moved to the outside. So what's 2 times 2? 4. Square root. Now what's still on the inside? 2 and? So what's 2 times 3? 6. Then we're going to bring down our subtraction sign. And then the square root of 12 in simplest form is going to be what? Square root 3. Okay. Well, it's not just my answer.
You combine them two.
What two?
It's going to be 1 square root 3.
Good. So what Kaylon is telling us here, he's going to combine like terms. He can combine 3 square root 3 and negative 2 square root 3 or minus 2 square root 3 because they have the same radicand. They're like terms. So he took the coefficients and subtracted them and got 1 square root 3. And then what do I bring down?
The plus
4 square root 6. So remember, we want to put them in order from least to greatest. What's another way I could write this?
Square root 3 plus 4 square root 6.
Yeah. So if you wanted to, you wouldn't even have to write that 1 in the coefficient. So if you put it there, it's fine. If you don't put it there, it's fine. But you have to make sure you have everything else. Okay, so that was last week, adding and subtracting square roots. Okay, let's look at multiplying now. My favorite. Multiplying square roots. So if you don't remember what you're supposed to do for multiplying square roots, this would be where it's a good opportunity to get your note sheet out and look at those 3 steps from yesterday. So when you're multiplying square roots, what's the first thing you do? Yeah, you multiply your outside numbers. You multiply your coefficients. So what's 5 times 3? 15. Okay? After you multiply your coefficients, step 2 says to do what? Yeah, factor our radicands. Can I factor 5? Nope. So I'm going to circle it because I am going to use that number. Okay, and then what are the factors for 10? And I'm going to circle both my prime numbers because I'm going to use it. Now, the second part of step 2 says to take these factors and put them in order together under one square root sign. So what am I going to write under a single square root sign? So 2 times what? Times 5. So we're going to use all 3 of these numbers under the same square root sign for multiplication. And then step 3, it's just simplify as normal. So that means we're going to circle our pairs. Our pair cancels. So I already have a coefficient of 15. What's going to be joining that 15 on the outside? So I'm going to have 15 times 5. And then what's on the inside? 2. And then when you go ahead and simplify those out and you multiply them, 15 times 5 is what? 75 square root 2. Now, I told you guys yesterday, and just a reminder today, where I've started right there, you don't necessarily have to show me this 15 times 5. I always write it when I do multiplication problems because I'm dealing with bigger numbers. So I can't do it as fast in my head, so I just write it out for a visual. Still not cutting it for me. All right, let's look at the next one. How did you guys do on that one once we started going? Did it kind of refresh your memory a little bit? Okay, the next one here. It means multiplication. This time, instead of having them both in parentheses touching, they're using the little dot to indicate multiplication. So we have 3 square root 60 times the square root of 30. So, Jalen, what's the first thing I need to do when I multiply together square roots? Look at your notes, or look at... What's step 1 say to do? Okay, so our outside numbers. So I'm going to look here. Do I have 2 outside numbers? No. So 3 times basically 1 is what? So my coefficient's going to be 3. Good. So we're going to factor our radicands. So what are the 2 factors of 60? 6 and 10. Okay. Keep going for 6.
You can put 10. Oh, huh? I'll put 2 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah, you circle it.
And for 10.
2 and 5.
Okay. Then we have to factor our other radicand here, which is 30.
So you put 3 and 10.
3 and 10.
And then you put 2 and 5 for 2 for 10.
Now, what do I do with all these factors I just circled?
Put it in order.
Put them in order under one square root sign, right? I'm going to need a fairly long square root sign. Okay, so what I would do, how many 2's do I have?
You got
1, 2, 3. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Okay, how many 3's do I have? And then how many 5's? Okay. Okay, good. So if you notice, as I was going through and figuring out what factors I need to put on, I was crossing them out to make sure that I have them all done. A common mistake when you're multiplying square roots is because there are so many factors that we circled, sometimes somebody or people tend to forget to bring one of the factors over. And then last step, we simplify as usual. So that means we're gonna circle our pairs and show that they cancel with the square root sign. Now, I'm going to show this extra step. What's the first thing that I bring down?
the 2.
No. The very first thing I bring down. Don't forget this guy. So bring your coefficient of 3 down first so we don't forget about it. Now, what's joining that 3 on the outside? The 2 and what else?
5.
And what else?
3.
Okay. Everything that canceled goes on the outside. Now, what did not cancel out that's stuck on the inside?
That 2.
Yeah, that 2 by
That's
itself.
what I was talking about.
Okay. So you were doing your radicand first. So now we go ahead and simplify our coefficient. So we're going to take 3 times 2 times 3 times 5. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 times 5, 90. Square root what? 2. There we go. Good. Last one. All right, Jaden, what do I do first here? Get your notes out from yesterday if you don't know. It's the first thing I'm going to do. No, I'm not going to factor first. Grab your notes out if you don't remember. Well, you can mumble under your breath and be upset about it, but you have to participate in math. So what's step 1 say to do? Okay, so multiply your coefficient. Your coefficient are your outside numbers. So when you multiply those two outside numbers together, what do you get? So our coefficients are our outside numbers. So it's what I underlined. If I multiply those two outside numbers together, what does that equal? Yeah, 6. So that becomes your new coefficient. From there, then you factor. So factors of 63, somebody help me out. What are two factors of 63?
7 and 9.
7 and 9. 7 is prime, I circle it. 9 is what? 3, 3. There's that voice. I haven't heard it yet. All right, for 56.
7 and 8.
Circle my 7. 8.
2, 4.
And then for 4.
2, 2.
Okay. Now what do I do?
You factor. You put them all in the little house.
One house or two houses?
One.
Good, one
They
house.
can have a party.
Right? They're going to have a house party. All right. When I put my factors in here, I want to put them in order from least to greatest. So how many 2's am I going to write? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Then what's my next number? 2 3's. And then what? 2 7's. Jair, what do I do next?
So your factors.
Circle my factor pairs. Yeah. So that they cancel with the square root sign. You can skip this green step if you want to. What is the first coefficient I cannot forget about?
Yo, 6.
So I'm going to bring that 6 times what's joining that 6?
2.
And then, what's the last one? 7. And then what's my radicand? Okay. And then when I simplify it, 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 3 is, what's 12 times 3? 6 times 12, 2 is 12. 12 times 3,
36.
36. 36 times 7? 252? Y'all agree?
Yeah, 252.
Square root what?
2.
Is that my final answer?
Yes.
Oh, she said 2.
252? 252? And we're done.